1933. Lombardy UFO crash. Many researchers point to 1947 as the beginning of the modern UFO era, the moment when sightings, reports, and alleged encounters took on the form that continues to shape public understanding more than 75 years later. However, the 1930s produced an earlier and often overlooked case in pre-Second World War Europe. According to multiple Italian ufologists, a craft of unknown origin reportedly crashed in northern Italy in 1933 and was retrieved under direct orders from Mussolini's government. Existing documents attributed to exchanges between officials of the Italian regime and the Third Reich appear to reference advanced technology of some kind, along with statements suggesting significant financial transfers between the two powers during this period. These materials are often cited as potential support for the recovery narrative, although it is easy to dismiss the account outright due to its extraordinary nature. The claims have drawn continued attention because certain details remain unexplained. The persistence of the case is also notable in the present day. Files and statements connected to the alleged 1933 incident continue to surface, and some modern commentators have referenced it in connection with recent Pentagon UFO discussions. This ongoing emergence of material has kept the case active within ufological circles, leaving open the possibility that further relevant information may still come to light. Just what happened? According to files leaked to researcher Roberto Pinati in 1996, a bell-shaped or cigar-shaped craft of unknown origin reportedly came down on June 13, 1933, in the Lombardy region of Italy, with the debris swiftly secured by Italian authorities. In the aftermath, a special unit known as Cabinet RS/33 was established. This secretive department, headquartered at La Sapienza University in Rome, operated under strict control from the outset. Its oversight was limited to three figures: Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, his son-in-law and foreign minister Count Galeazzo Ciano, and Airman General Italo Balbo. Cabinet RS/33 was also described as maintaining close ties to the fascist secret police, OVRA, and the Agenzia Stefani, the regime's state-run news service responsible, in part, for managing propaganda and suppressing unwanted information. This network reportedly ensured that all details surrounding the alleged crash remained tightly contained. The leaked documents. Several of the leaked papers, including telegrams dated June 1933 and confirmed by experts as authentic documents from the period, appear to reference the event. These telegrams include directives ordering the suppression of any mention of the incident and warnings of legal consequences for those who attempted to publicize what had occurred. One telegram, for example, stated that on the orders of Mussolini himself, that there would be immediate arrest for diffusion of news related to aircraft of unknown nature and origin. It also ordered that immediate recasting of any leads from the newspapers bearing said news is ordered to stop. The document ended by clearly stating there would be maximum penalties for anyone failing to adhere to the orders. Another telegram stated that absolute silence is ordered on presumed landing on national soil of unknown aircraft. A third telegram issued orders that reporting on the incident should conclude that the object in question was a meteor as per the releases of Agenzia Stefani. Essentially, a cover story was being put in place. Several of the other documents referred directly to the secretive Cabinet RS/33. They offered that various top-level scientists performed secretive studies and research under the project of Cabinet ERS/33, including Guglielmo Marconi, who is known to have believed that radio transmissions could communicate with intelligent life on other planets. Whether any communication took place or not is perhaps open to debate, but it is interesting to note comments by Mussolini in a speech made on March 23, 1941, in increased anticipation of the Americans entering the Second World War. That they should. He stated that it's more likely that the United States will be invaded by unknown but warlike inhabitants from the planet Mars. Who will come down from the starry space on unimaginable flying fortresses, then by soldiers of the Axis? Was Mussolini being dismissive, or was he hinting at information that suggested he took such possibilities seriously? Even if assuming the visitors came from Mars reflected the scientific assumptions of his era? The comparison becomes even more striking when noting the parallels often drawn between Cabinet RS/33 and the later claims surrounding the MJ-12 secretive bodies tasked with studying advanced technology and controlling information about unidentified aerial phenomena. In the years that followed the alleged 1933 crash, Italian witnesses who reported unusual aerial sightings often faced the threat of arrest, and local newspapers were repeatedly warned against publishing such accounts. This environment of suppression formed a persistent pattern that researchers Roberto Pinotti and Alfredo Lissoni documented in detail during their investigation into the period. Detailed documentation of 1936 sighting over Venice. Among the numerous sightings reported across Italy during the mid-1930s, one of the most notable occurred on the afternoon of August 17, 1936. The event is described in a document dated August 22nd, written by a secret agent identified only as Andrea. According to his report, several witnesses observed a metallic, cigar-shaped craft moving over Venice. The object reportedly featured an opening at its rear from which two smaller disc-shaped craft emerged. Andrea described these smaller craft as metallic discs, polished and reflecting light. The Italian Air Force dispatched two fighter aircraft in an attempt to intercept, but the pilots were unable to match the speed or maneuverability of the objects. The report also emphasized that the craft emitted no sound, a detail that would appear repeatedly in sighting accounts worldwide in the decades that followed. Andrea also provided copies of drawings from an informant and descriptions of the two types of objects. The first, larger object is described as being like a kind of aerial torpedo with very clear windows and with alternating white and red lights. The smaller objects, on the other hand, were described as being like two hats like those used by priests. They were wide, round with a dome in the center, metallic, and followed the torpedo-shaped object without changing their relative positions. Whether there is a connection between this sighting in 1936 and the object that crashed in Lombardy 3 years earlier is unknown. It is, though, clear to see the similarities between the larger object over Venice and the object that crashed to the ground in Lombardy. We should also take note of a section in the document that reads, "The Duce, Mussolini, has expressed his worries because he says that if it was an English or French aircraft, his foreign policy would have to start all over again." This detail is compelling because it suggests that, rather than assuming the object seen over Venice was extraterrestrial in origin, two possibilities were being considered. Mussolini may not have fully understood the nature of the craft reportedly recovered in 1933, and was still weighing the possibility that it represented an advanced terrestrial technology. Alternatively, he may have known exactly what the earlier crash represented, but believed that other nations had obtained similar technology and succeeded in reverse engineering it. What can be said with certainty is that Mussolini was receiving direct updates on these developments as they unfolded, recovered by American forces after the war. Through their investigation, Pinotti and Lissoni concluded that the 1933 wreckage had been transported to SIAI Marchetti in Vergiate, an airbase located in Magenta near Milan, where it remained until American forces gained access to it near the end of the Second World War. This aligns closely with statements later made by whistleblower David Grush, who asserted that in 1933, a bell-like craft, around 10 meters in size, was recovered in Magenta, northern Italy. It was kept by Mussolini's government until 1944 when it was recovered by agents. This aligns closely with statements later made by whistleblower David Grush, who asserted that in 1933, a bell-like craft, around 10 meters in size, was recovered in Magenta, northern Italy. It was kept by Mussolini's government until 1944 when it was recovered by agents of the Office of Strategic Services. The Office of Strategic Services, or OSS, served as the predecessor of the modern CIA. Another point often cited by researchers is that the air facilities at Magenta were notably spared from major damage during extensive bombing campaigns throughout the war. If there is any truth to claims of covert communication, formal or informal, between Axis and Allied leadership in the period leading up to and during the conflict, then it is plausible that the OSS was aware of the craft's location. If so, the site may have been deliberately designated as off-limits to ensure its preservation. The claims of Marco Negri. Another noteworthy thread comes from longtime Lombardy resident Marco Negri, who stated that his great-great-grandfather had passed down accounts of a strange metal plane that reportedly crashed somewhere between Vergiate and Magenta in 1933. According to Negri, these stories were later relayed to him by his Negri claimed that there was a big censorship around this crash, and that the fascist secret police were deployed to nearby towns to ensure that residents remained silent about what had happened. He also maintained that, along with the wreckage, 2 bodies had been recovered. Researcher George Filer has also spoken of 2 occupants allegedly retrieved from the crash, describing them as tall, blonde Nordic beings. Reports involving such entities became especially widespread in the United States and abroad during the 1950s, forming a significant part of mid-century contactee narratives. Whether any bodies were transferred to the United States along with the recovered craft is unknown. Even so, the frequency of claims involving similar beings in the years that followed, as well as long-standing allegations of a classified meeting between President Eisenhower and representatives of a Nordic group in February 1954, adds an additional layer of interest to this portion of the story. Sudden advances in Italian aviation. While the idea remains speculative, Roberto Pinotti has raised an important point regarding the rapid progress of Italian aviation during the latter half of the 1930s. In his book UFO Contacts in Italy, Volume 2, Pinotti notes that Italy succeeded in producing the prototype of what is often regarded as the first jet aircraft in history, the Campini Caproni one, just before the Second World War. This accomplishment stands out sharply when considering that at the end of the First World War, Italy's aviation industry had been regarded as one of the weakest in Western Europe. Pinotti therefore poses a provocative question. Could the examination of the object reportedly stored in hangars near Milan have contributed to this unexpected technological leap? Whether such advancement resulted from the study of a recovered craft remains uncertain, and the idea must be approached cautiously. Even so, it is not entirely beyond the boundaries of possibility. The pattern becomes even more intriguing when viewed alongside similar bursts of innovation elsewhere. In the United States, the late 1940s and 1950s saw significant scientific and aeronautical progress, emerging during the same general era when several alleged recovery events, such as the Roswell case, were said to have occurred. A comparable acceleration can also be observed in the technological achievements of the Third Reich during the same period. These parallel developments unfolding in multiple nations at roughly the same time raise compelling questions about what might have influenced such concentrated progress. It is within that context that the focus now shifts to the scientific and engineering efforts underway in Germany during those years. Connections to the advanced research of the Third Reich. Another area of interest involves comments made by researcher Alfredo Lissoni, particularly his claims regarding alleged communications between Adolf Hitler's government and Mussolini's regime concerning the 1933 crash. According to Lissoni, one agency Stefani message referenced a meeting in 1938 described as extremely private and specifically focused on Cabinet RS/33. The message also suggested that substantial funds were transferred, implying the existence of hidden financial support, so-called black funds, allocated to RS/33. This has been compared to the rumored black budget programs said to exist within American intelligence agencies after the Second World War. Lissoni ultimately argued that these documents indicated the presence of agreements between Hitler and Mussolini involving the study of exotic or unconventional technology, Roberto Pinotti, while warning that many stories circulating in this area stem from unabashed neo-Nazi propaganda, nonetheless stated that undoubtedly there is at least some truth to the matter, suggesting that the broader topic should not be dismissed outright. With that in consideration, it is worth noting that around the same period as the 1936 Venice sighting, claims emerged of another unidentified disc-shaped craft crashing in the Black Forest near Freiburg, Germany. Various accounts state that SS personnel rapidly secured the site and transported the recovered object to Wewelsburg Castle, a location tied to the Third Reich's more esoteric research efforts. Whether connected or not, the timing and themes echo the broader pattern of alleged attempts by Axis powers to investigate unidentified technological anomalies during the pre-war years. German scientists were said to have attempted to reverse engineer the recovered craft, and soon afterward, coincidentally or otherwise, development reportedly began on the Haunebu disk, a saucer-shaped design often described in post-war accounts as incorporating some form of advanced propulsion. Known about the Haunebu comes from later claims and disputed documents. These assertions have persisted in discussions of early unconventional aircraft research. It is also frequently noted that many individuals associated with advanced German aviation and experimental projects were transferred to the United States in 1945 under Project Paperclip, the post-war program that brought numerous Third Reich scientists and engineers into American research efforts. Among the most well-known participants was Wernher von Braun, who would go on to play a central role in the development of USA rocketry and the eventual Apollo missions. Some researchers argue that if work on disc-shaped aircraft did occur within the Third Reich, the knowledge base may have been carried into American programs along with these personnel. What should we make of it all? While the alleged Roswell crash is widely recognized and deeply embedded in popular culture, reports of possible downed craft in Europe during the 1930s, most notably the Lombardy incident in Italy, remain significantly less familiar even among dedicated UFO researchers. Yet these earlier accounts may hold considerable relevance, not only to the broader chronology of 20th century UFO events, but also to the hidden scientific and geopolitical maneuvering that shaped the era leading into the Second World War. As modern society was built upon the developments that emerged from that turbulent period, it raises the question of whether some of those foundations might have been influenced, directly or indirectly, by technology of uncertain or unusual origin. While the reports of UFO crashes in pre-Second World War Europe during the 1930s should be approached cautiously, they remain intriguing and are not entirely beyond the bounds of possibility. It is worth considering whether efforts were made to study and potentially reverse engineer such technology for military purposes, and how different the course of technological development might have been if Italian or German programs had achieved their speculative objectives. It is also important to note that several claims of downed UFOs in the United States occurred shortly after the European incidents. Among these, the 1941 crash at Cape Girardeau, Missouri, stands out as particularly notable, with reports suggesting the recovery of multiple deceased extraterrestrial occupants. Some researchers have proposed that these USA cases could provide indirect support for the earlier European reports, potentially indicating an extraterrestrial presence on Earth well before the Roswell event of 1947. Ultimately, the claims surrounding the Lombardy crash, as with many similar accounts, remain unresolved and fluid. They occupy a space within the broader UFO narrative that continues to evolve as investigations proceed and additional evidence is considered.